well known in the East and practiced to some extent in the Middle East. And though having been used in the past to a great extent in the West, has declined a little bit, but with the end of the 20th century and the beginning of the 21st century, understanding and engaging with the science of mantras is something that has grown. Certainly, as Westerners have become aware of the spiritual practice, many have taken it on to greater and lesser extents of success. But in their taking them up, there is a cultural lack of understanding as to how to maximize what you get out of your mantra practice. Now, for those who say mantras as an act of devotion for which they seek absolutely no gain other than the feeling of connection to the spiritual processes, then these things are not so much of an issue. But for those of us who are engaged on the spiritual journey, or those who are saying mantras for the purpose of achieving a net gain, whatever that may be, health, wealth, happiness, favorable rebirth, then there are aspects to saying a mantra that go beyond simple recitation. So what do we mean when we say a mantra? A mantra is, in essence, a sacred statement or sentence that contains within it an encapsulation of what it is that you seek, but also what it is that gives the mantra power. Mantras sometimes are given words in the more humanistic circles as affirmations. And if you're making an affirmation in the language that you speak, well, these things are not so much of an issue. And really what you are trying to do is reprogram deep, ingrained psychological behaviors. That is by saying things like, I shall seek only the good. I shall see only the happiness within all. These are fairly simple statements and very, very rarely go beyond the surface meaning, and they are effective as a tool. But when one moves into far more ancient mantras, then we have to understand that in societies that have used these techniques over millennia, that the sophistication behind these requires us to engage with the mantra on more than just a surface level. How do you do this? Well, to take two mantras, one from the Hindu tradition, one from the Buddhist tradition, of which at least one of them you will be familiar with. If we start with, for instance, the Lakshmi Gayatri, in the Hindu tradition, there are mantras. There are Bij mantras, which are like root pith statements, and this is the same in all Dharma traditions, such as Buddhism and Bon. And then there are the Gayatris, and these are far more formalized ritual recitations. They're a long mantra. And you can learn them and gain great benefit from them. You can download chanting of it and join in the chanting. But as one of my late teachers, Geshe Thupten Lodin, once said, if you recite these mantras and you don't understand what they actually mean, you might as well be reciting things in Sumerian. It will have a benefit, but it will not be a greater benefit. It will not transform your essence. So when we look at, for instance, the Lakshmi mantra, and I pick that because it has an opposite focus to the next mantra we'll look at, it is about getting the benefits of prosperity and abundance. And there are various mantras you can say to this. There's the Golden Tara mantras, very, very beautiful. Zambala, Kubara, Naga mantras. There's lots of them, but the Lakshmi is the one we'll focus on because it happens to be one of the mantras. I am doing a long accumulation of 108,000 at the moment. So when we look at this mantra, and it goes, Om Mahalakshmi cha vidmahe Vishnu patne cha dimahi Tano Lakshmi prachodayat. Now, there are beautiful tunes that you can sing it to, and I heartily recommend them. It is important to embellish your offerings and your connection to the divinities. So what does this mantra mean? Om Mahalakshmi vidmahe, hail unto you the great or the mighty goddess Lakshmi. Vishnu Patnai cha Dimahi, who is the consort, or the great goddess who is the consort of Vishnu. Who is Vishnu? Vishnu is the deity who is the preserver. He's the Lord of this world, the giver of all things material, or the supporter of them through his endless dream. Tanu Lakshmi prachodayat. Oh, bless me, or pour upon me, Lakshmi, your blessings. Now, when you say them, it's important to understand at least the essence of what they mean. Om Mahalakshmi cha vidmahe Vishnu patne cha dimahi Tano Lakshmi prachodayat. But likewise, there are visualizations that you must do or can do with this. So if you find an image, say, of the goddess Lakshmi, or you have a statue of her, or you're familiar with her, there's plenty of them, you can search it. Or as we say in the parlance of the 21st century, Google it. So when you say the first image, you see, Om Mahalakshmi cha vidmahe, I visualize her in her seated form with her 6 arms. These are representative of her attributes. And one of them, she has her hand forward in the gesture of generosity. You see this in many deities that are about prosperity. And from the center of the palm flow gold coins, jewels, usually gold coins. So, Om Mahalakshmi cha vidmahe, you see her in that form, beautiful, magnificent. And as you become more familiar with it, you see yourself throwing clouds of jasmine flowers. She likes jasmine. Burning incense. Jasmine is a good one. Or sandalwood. With copious offerings of generosity. The more you give, the more in your heart, the more generous you are, the more you forge the connection with the goddess, the more you are likely then to when you see the next one where you go, Vishnu Padnaicha Dimahi. There are huge amounts of images of her in her loving relationship with the Lord Vishnu. Whether she is lying, standing over him, sitting with him, eating, drinking, attending upon him, and always happy, giving of love. Because one of the gifts that you can get from her is also love. One of the most easy things to be generous with is love. And in the giving, it does not become halved, but grows. And so, in sharing in this, and then looking upon this image and generating love for this image of two beings in a loving relationship, sustaining the universe, this then opens your heart. And when the heart is open, it is open to receiving abundance. Then you move to the last one. Tano Lakshmi Prachodayat. O great Goddess Lakshmi, bestow upon me your blessings, and feel the blessings pouring over you and entering into you, surrounding you. And those blessings can be flowers and coins and jewels and love and all the vitality of life, because Vishnu and Lakshmi are about life. And as one says the mantra over and over, you see this and you see this, and the more you see this, the more you feel this, you should start to feel like a tingling or a feeling over the head that then spreads through your body, and you know you are receiving the blessings of the goddess. If we look at another mantra that you may be familiar with, Om Mani Padme Hum. This is the Buddhist mantra of Shenrezig, or Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion. You may know him as her, as Kuan Yin. These are all the same divinity. It is the manifestation of compassion. But this mantra is slightly different. I remember first encountering the deeper teachings of Lama Anagarika Govinda, one of the first Westerners to not just encounter Tibetan Buddhism, but to actually enter into it and complete his retreat of threes. That's his 3 years, 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days retreat. And his book, The Jewel in the Lotus, is all about the discussion about the meaning behind this mantra. And you could spend lifetimes learning about this. But what does it mean? Let's look at it. There is the saying of it, which brings a sense of peace. But if we are to understand it, then Om can mean lots of things. It can mean hail, praise. It can also mean the primal sound of creation, the Brahma, the Dharmakaya, however you want, the force, however you want to see, the essence that underpins all existence. Mani, the jewel. Padme, in the lotus. Hung, sealed. Hung is a wrathful word, but that doesn't mean it's angry. It doesn't mean it's sharp and bitter. It just is hung, sealed with power. Return. So what does this actually mean? So, Mani, the jewel. The jewel is the light of our consciousness, our primordially enlightened nature. Padme, in the lotus. And what is the lotus? It's our mind. Hung, sealed with the Vajra seal, the lightning bolt. Om Mani Padme Hum. And what it's saying is that you may see the deity Shenrezig or Kuan Yin or Avalokiteshvara without, but what is arising the sense of peace and compassion arises in your own mind as your own enlightenment arises in your own mind. And one can see it as in money, you see the jewel. You could in Dzogchen teachings and the higher yoga teachings, they sometimes say the jewel is the semba. This is a small sesame seed of beautiful light. Padme, the mind of the lotus, and the lotus opens. And it's when it opens that its beauty becomes apparent and its aroma spreads out and peace ascends through you to all around you. Hung. Hung seals it down into your heart. And then you return. Om Mani Padme Hum Om. And as you do it, as it opens, it transforms into Shenrezi. And if you can see Shenrezi or Kuan Yin or Avalokiteshvara in front of you, but if you have received tantric empowerment, it's not that hard to get these days, you see yourself also as Shenrezi and Avalokiteshvara. And by saying it in the form of the Bodhisattva, it is believed that you get the benefit of a Bodhisattva saying this. Now, there are oceans of mantras. And some are newer, some are older. Many have totally different meanings and purposes. In my 24 years as a Nyingma Buddhist Lama, the Nyingma tradition is known as the Mantrayana tradition. This is the school of mantra. So we focus very much on the science of mantra. And when, for instance, I receive teachings from my most precious Bon teachers, they are very, very careful to say this. They go, don't just recite the mantra meaninglessly. Actually try and understand. You need to understand what it means. That doesn't mean you're painstakingly translating it, but understand what it is you're saying. If you are going to take a mantra or use a phrase from an ancient text in an ancient language, and it is good to use a liturgical language, because by using the language we speak every day, it doesn't have that sanctity with which we use when we use a different language. Anyone who has sung or chanted in Latin will know something changes inside of you. And people studying this have seen a change in our brainwaves. But while we're doing it and we're doing visualization and we're understanding and we're vocalizing, what we are doing is engaging our body, our speech, and our mind to achieve a goal. And in so doing, we gain greater depth of engagement with the mantra and the meaning behind it. Now, why say 108,000? I use this as a form of consecration. It's part of the tantric tradition. It just establishes it within your consciousness. But when I've finished and I've done the counting, I like to recite them without counting. And in that I start to sing. And you sing the mantra and you feel it. And you engage not just the body, the speech, and the mind, but the heart is engaged as well. And with the heart brought in, then you are able to transform yourself. And when you are able to do that, the blessings of the mantra become more real, more immediate, and possibly more importantly, transformative. I heartily recommend that you practice mantras. Make them a part of your life. Maybe for you, the long recitations of 108,000, this doesn't excite you, doesn't connect you. Then sing them. Chant them slowly. Allow the sound to not just wash out of you, but through you and over you, and in so doing become transformed. And when you do, then your mantra practice, and a mantra, it must be pointed out, is also a spell. For those of you who like to robe it in Western understanding, then you are going to not just be a little child demanding, give me, gimme, 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 but you enter into a two-way relationship with the beings with which you are attempting to either supplicate or become one with. And in so doing, you grow and become a better mystic. But more importantly, in so doing, you transform not just yourself, but the world around you. I am Dr. Shimon de Valencia. I am sometimes Lama Losang Dundan, but I am also the merry mystic, and I wish you all Namaste.